really live for real now, live on X. Just want to give a quick introduction. Welcome, guys, to the Superlative Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Bushi. Every episode, one guest, a founder, investor, operator, or someone who's built or competed at a level most people only read about. The conversation covers their journey, what they discovered along the way, and what most people never get to hear, and where they think their field is going. No edits, no post production, just one sharp conversation. And yeah, let's get into it. So just a few things. Yangchen here is a GP at Roundtable Ventures based in San Francisco, and she has such a fascinating story to share. Thank you for joining us today. And before we get into our journey or your journey, would you like to give us two sentences on what Roundtable Ventures is and what you're building? And then we'll come back to it at the end.
Well, thank you, Ed, for having me. This is such a fascinating thing, right? Like we're doing it live, there's no script, and I love it. I think this is when natural conversations happen and people can resonate. So thank you. A little bit about Roundtable. We are a founder first VC. This firm and this fund was built for founders
Mm.
because we are founders turned investors. So we are the most operational investors in a cap table, and we like to live by this motto.
Yeah, that's really powerful, and I'd love to dig into that more as we get into the later parts of this conversation. So before we chatted, right? We before we're chatting now, we talked earlier about how you started your business around you were 17. People at that age are figuring out what they want to do in their life, right? And what were you? Would you like to talk about that a little bit? What were you trying to solve at that age?
Wow, I think people only choose to be in such adversarial roles at an early age if once they go through adversity. I come from a business background. My parents were entrepreneurs. And I think this is the first time I'm opening up about it live. But I saw us as a family having capital and then going bankrupt. And that's when I discovered like I have to build my future on my skills and abilities and not just bank it on mama and papa. Right.
Mm,
So that adversity, just seeing how capital comes in and then moves out quickly, gave me a lot of motivation and also an exposure to venture in the field of being an entrepreneur. So started my business at 17. I had a clothing brand, and we would do a little bit of streetwear and just lifestyle and just getting into the clothing business. I had such great manufacturers, and I got on a call one day and I thought, hey, I think I should start manufacturing. That's how we proceed. And I started my factory at the age of 19. It was such a long journey, very tedious, heavy on supply chain and inventory, and always had a cash flow problem. But I think that's what happens, when you look into legendary industries that are so traditional and manual, right? You
mm.
have the opportunity to change how things operate, and I was happy and like able to do so. So I would say my journey started really early, and I was in good hands with good mentors in manufacturing, and they were always there to help and support. And maybe that's when I got motivated when we were building Roundtable Ventures. You're like, hey, this is what our founders need, right? Not
Mm.
just capital, but guidance, but someone who really understands your journey as a founder, because you'll go through so many emotions.
Yeah, I want to double click on that a little bit because I remember in the pre-call that we had, right? Um, you talked about how you lived or you're part of a generation where VC money or really VC institutions weren't a thing in India, right? So it seemed that you raised your first capital through bank loans, friends, and family because no VC infrastructure. What did that experience teach you about money and that you could not have learned any other way?
Oh God, that's such a great question. Um, Right. India is so strong on infrastructure businesses, but we had a lack of capital for new businesses and any growing industries. And when you look into venture capital, it's mostly based on technology, right?
Mm.
And we had we
Silicon Valley, for example.
exactly.
Yeah.
So having that was a lack in our ecosystem before,
Mm.
and I had no choice but to go to a bank and put down assets and get a loan from the bank. And the interest rate was so high because I was just a beginner with not a lot tied to my name. So I had to borrow money from my friends and family to pay off the bank loan. And then we were 2 years in business where we had some profits and paid off friends and family in that way. So um, I think I am very lucky to have, had that situation because that really teaches you a mindset of you have to get it done no matter what, right?
Mm.
Like you don't have a no in the option. It's always a not yet. So
Yeah.
just learning how to proceed without having capital teaches you a lot on how can you bootstrap your business, how can you launch in the leanest way.
Yeah.
And we started with 9 junkie machines in the facility, and the facility was rented by our mentors in manufacturing. So they gave us a place and they said, "Hey, I won't charge you rent for some certain, period of time, and until you guys are being profitable." And
Wow.
it makes you very vulnerable and transparent. And then I think most entrepreneurs are really scared of being on that state because all you see online is everybody's hustling and grinding and the hustle works. But
Mm.
sometimes when you work too hard and you hustle hard, it won't work. And
Mm.
that's just the journey of being an entrepreneur. You can work the hardest and it still won't work for you. But
Yeah.
you need to have that mindset that, hey, it's okay. You've stepped on this journey of highs and lows and you have to accept it. You have to accept these tides. So it has been a tremendous journey. I would say resilience is something that I've developed over the years.
Yeah. And talking about how um, uh, sometimes there's going to be some hard times, right? And that you have to have a strong mindset, or else you'll fall out of it. Was there a moment where you almost did not get back up?
For a year, we had no capital to pay our employees
A year.
for a
That's
year.
harsh.
I know because I was just stepping up in manufacturing, and sure, I had great mentors, but you still have to operate it yourself,
Mm.
right? I had the luck of finding employees who were willing to be with us, and I told them, "Hey, I don't think so. I have a paycheck for the next 7 months. Would that be okay? If you want to go and find work somewhere else, so I can absolutely look that for you." But then, and these are garment workers, garment weavers, right?
Yeah.
So very traditional. They came up to me and they said, "I think you're young and maybe you'll change the ecosystem and treat us as humans. So we'll stick with you." And
Wow.
I cried. I cried that day. I was very emotional. I was like, "You trust me, a young girl, right?" So I think it's, you will have these moments, but you'll also have support, right? Because um, I think it's all about how you can change your perspective and make it a positive. So they stayed with me, and later when we were liquid in business, we made sure that they had their healthcare benefits. We never operated as a traditional factory. We always cared about them
Mm.
as we care about ourselves too, because no matter what kind of an employee or position you are, you still add up to a very huge percentage of making the business successful.
Yeah, that's really powerful, and I loved how you brought the human element of like the people around you, right? That when they show appreciation to like what you're doing, right, and they're willing to like work with you during the hard times. That's a really powerful thing. So you talked about you know um, uh, like grit, right? And I wanted to ask also, besides that, would the Yangchen now, um, uh, like if you wanted to tell that Yangchen in 17 what you know now, what else would you say to like help that younger version of yourself out?
Uh, that's a very like emotional question. I would go back and tell myself that, hey, you've done good and
Mm,
it's okay. It's okay. Because a lot changes you in life, like adversity mentally changes you. Sure, it makes you resilient, it makes you um, powerful enough to overcome these tides in life, but you also lose a certain aspect, and that's like being in a state of joy, right?
mm,
Being in a state of peace, because when you start your journey so early, you're always thinking about tomorrow, the future, right? You're always thinking about what can I do better? How can I progress further?
mm,
And I spent my early years just chasing the next achievement, the next goal. Like, okay, we'll ship more, we'll do this more, we'll earn a little more, we'll do that. And that's great, that progresses you further, but then it also, you really get disconnected with that peaceful state of yourself. And now that I've grown older, sometimes when I just lay idle, I'm anxious. I'm like, oh, I should be
mm,
productive. I should do something. So recently, I had a conversation with my sister, and she's been the love of my life, my mentor, whatever you call it. And I told her, hey, like I don't want to be anxious, I just want to have a peaceful Sunday. How can I do that? And she told me, well, maybe it's because you've only chased the next big thing in your life since your early days. So maybe
mm.
go back to the 17-year-old Yangchen and say that it's all going to work out. It's okay. You need to have patience. It's okay. And I did that, and as crying. So yeah.
Mm. That's really powerful because as founders, and you're growing your business, sometimes you could like push the goalpost, and then sometimes you could like overwork yourself or even like increase the scope of your product. You know, uh, Talking about like how I'd love to know how you transitioned from Yang Chen who started working in fashion and manufacturing, like operated a factory. What's the story between that and starting a VC firm?
I didn't grow up wanting to be an investor, right? I grew up wanting to build things. I was always into arts and crafts. I always loved maths and physics. I was very studious as a kid. And just, I had this dream of being in Silicon Valley, right? Being
Mm,
around builders, being around those ambitious folks. And when I did move here, I saw a gap in venture capital. And we we have really large firms that have absolutely bridged this gap, and they've been so founder focused.
mm,
Also, a lot of funds that just write a passive check and they're not really involved.
mm,
So I thought to myself, if I had the chance of raising VC money today to build my next big thing, I would want someone who would treat me as a partner, not just walking capital, right? Not just an investment that would ripen up in X amount of years and everybody has a good holiday. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you understand these things, right? You know, like how hard it is to build a startup. Like capital is fuel, but in order for the fuel to run, you need an engine. So we saw this gap in VC. As very lucky to have my partners in the firm that had the same mindset. And again, these are operators turned investors. So they've seen the chaos of building a product, shipping it, and still having feedbacks from customers, right? So we were very founder focused when we started the firm, and we had this goal of being very operational, because if I can bring my domain expertise within my portfolio, why not, right?
mm,
Because if a startup does well, we do well, our LPs do well as well. And I think this is how we've had a very good relationship with founders, because they don't just see us as someone who's going to invest in their startup, but they see us as one of their founding members. Like, we have a very chill relationship. They can call
Mm,
us any given moment and tell us like, hey, Yangchen, this is something
mm,
that I need help with. Are you willing to do this for me? I'm like, absolutely. If I've chosen this job, this is my responsibility. I need to be there for you. And some people question us like, oh, what about the investment you're in finance, right? You have to look out for companies and be aggressive and then play the whole role of being an investor. Like, sure, but then you also have responsibilities for the ones that you've signed.
mm.
So this is how we've structured the fund, and that's what motivated me.
Gotcha. So, like, what it sounds like is your tagline is you're the most operational investors in the cap table, right?
Mhm.
And would you say being more hands-on with the teams that you're working with is the edge? Is there something else that you wanted to like talk about to give more resolution or high definition to the word, the statement, the most operational investors?
Would love to. So I come from a business background, right? I look into business infrastructure of startups. I help them expand globally. And my co-GP, his name's Sagnik, he comes from 12 years in tech as VP in different banks. So he looks into the tech infrastructure for our
Mm,
portfolios. And we have a venture partner that has been seasoned in VC, worked as a managing director in a Saudi-based fund. He looks for the Series A um, sectors for our startup. So we
mm.
pick companies at pre-seed, we guide them, mentor them, shape them, and then our venture partner looks on to the growth and expansion of those. And since we are also backed by India's largest, one of the largest growing venture capital named Shastra, they're always
Mm.
willing to step in and advise them, right? And we have an arm of 20 plus operators, and these are very dear relationships. And these are
Good.
executives from Google, Apple, and they're always willing to step in and help our portfolios with their domain expertise. So this is what we do. We've literally shaped the entire fund for like every investor needs to work their off.
Yeah. So, like, just so that we get a good picture of the team, right? You talked about one of your GPs who used to be a managing partner at the fund. We talked about you and your founder background. This your other GP, right? Sounds like he worked for like 12 years in a FANG company, right? Uh, what would you say? You know that person brings to the table for companies. Someone like him who knows how to ship features for Samsung, like you mentioned in your pre-calls.
So for Sagnek, since he comes from such a seasoned tech background, he's actually been on the very interception of building products and shipping it. Like,
Mm,
he gives me an example, when Samsung has a latest update, all of us, we see it as an update, right? But the internal chaos of actually building that feature, having a very firm approach on how this should be shipped perfectly, because people still have reviews and feedbacks, right? So he's very conservative within his promises, and he has helped our portfolios on expanding their technical infrastructure. Since because when we pick companies at pre-seed and seed, their ideas always change and they're always innovative.
mm,
So he's worked on their tech, constantly expanding their expertise in tech. This is what
mm.
he brings to the table. I call him the chat GPT for tech diligence.
Chat GPT for tech diligence. That's really nicely put. And that's really good that you bring that well-roundedness to your team. I want to change gears a little bit, right? I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier in the call. You said something on our call earlier where you said that all you see online is the alpha mindset.
Ugh.
No one talks about the preparation, the gray areas, the hard parts about being in finance, for example.
Mm.
What do you think the industry you're in keeps presenting? Why do you think that the industry keeps presenting that version of itself?
First of all, Ed, you have such great questions, and I'm
Oh,
so happy that this is live.
well, I'm glad that you're treating them as a good exercise in exposing this and
Yeah,
working through this.
absolutely. It's a lot more enjoying, even on my end. It doesn't feel pressured, right? So, yeah, all that I see in media is people presenting themselves to be so perfect as an entrepreneur, right?
Mm,
Everybody forces founders to have an alpha mindset, to not care about things, to always be strong. But that's unrealistic because you'll have young founders ask questions like, will it ever get easy? Am I still
mm,
supposed to feel like this even if I've achieved my biggest milestone? Like, I had a founder ask me that, and I told him, hey, I've been X amount of years in business. I still feel like shit sometimes. And you have to be okay with that, right?
mm,
Because what you see on social media is not true. You will have bad days even if you're a successful company. And
mm,
it's not just an aspiring founder having bad days and struggles. When once you reach to a higher stage of being a late stage company, you will have a lot of pressure for presenting yourself to be right and sane in front of your investors, presenting yourself to be a very good leader in front of your customers and your employees. And you
mm,
still have to function as a normal human being with your own life, right? And still keep the company running. So I want founders to be educated on the vulnerable side of entrepreneurship because
mm.
just reinforcing yourself to have a positive experience is a negative experience, right? And if you want to get into the space of being an entrepreneur, you have to accept that you're choosing a very different life. You're not meant to have the good old happy sunny days as every other individual does. You will have days that are absolutely chaotic and ransom, but you have to make the most out of it, right?
Mm.
Like, I traded my peace and many of my personal experiences when I was young. And now that I'm in this age where I can socialize and make friends, I'm socially awkward because I never had a chance to, right?
Yeah, you missed out on learning a certain skills earlier on. It sounds like.
Exactly. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with willing to make trade-offs because you have dreams so big, you have to have habits that will define you to live that large life.
Mm,
So you have to be okay with feeling like crap even if you achieve your biggest milestone because sometimes you won't feel rewarded, right?
yeah,
Like, I see entrepreneurs as a wounded warrior, right? You will go through war. You'll have several wins. You'll still win, but you still feel the pain of all of
yeah.
these. So I want people to have a better mindset about like entrepreneurship is not just about a glorified success.
Mm,
I guess it's more about becoming that person who is willing to build a strong company, who's willing to go through challenges, because this journey will literally change you
mm,
into becoming your highest self,
yeah.
right? You will become the best version of yourself and you'll keep growing.
Yeah, and like when I heard that, it was like really powerful because it reminds me of like a trip where I was going hiking, and some days the hikes were like 10 hours, and you really want to give up, but you can't. You have to go. You have to move forward, and the best way to just like think about it is just like move slowly. Doesn't matter if your lungs are getting a hard time because of altitude sickness. Just move one step at a time. Just move forward, and yeah,
So,
take the lumps. Be aware of them. You don't need to, like you said, like go yeah, I could do it, and just like
mhm,
be so like macho about the pain.
mhm,
But yeah, like in going to um what it takes to be a GP at a firm or a venture fund firm. What do you, from what you learned, right? What do you think most people get wrong about starting a fund?
Oh,
What could you tell us?
people think that starting a fund is easy,
Oh,
and it's not, because we just started our firm last year, and it's been a tremendous journey. I see it as starting a business or building a startup.
wow.
Um, you need to have an analytic side. You
Mm,
need to know, sure, as investors, we're all generalists, right, within different industries, but you
yeah.
need to do your math, you need to do your homework. You have to sit every day and allocate some time to just study about different industries, different businesses, different business models, because I think I see it as um, I see this as people with learning about medicine. So doctors, they educate themselves every day, because we always have new diseases, new illnesses, and they're always studying new methods of curing that illness and new medications, right? So we have to, as investors, as GPs or whatever you call it, when you're investing, you have to be on top of your expertise, your knowledge. You have to study about different industries. And the other thing is finance. For the first time, when you're raising your first fund, it will be a little difficult, because the first fund is all about you, right? It's all about people, LPs trusting you, seeing if you're capable enough to turn this into something great. And the second fund is all about your track record of your first fund. So you will feel a little scrappy. Sure, you're entitled with the title of being an investor, VC, or GP, whatever you call it,
Mm,
but it is going to be tough. And my best advice to emerging managers is educate yourself, be an expert at analyzing companies, do very heavy due diligence. And
mm.
even if you lose some allocations while doing your due diligence, because startups move fast and there are tier one funds that will take an allocation in these amazing startups. So even if you do lose a company, it's okay.
Mm.
You learned, right? You were doing your due diligence. What if you just moved too fast and you just invested in a company that you weren't supposed to be investing at? So heavy on due diligence. And the third thing that I'd tell is, just even when you have an idea of starting your fund, or you're in the plans of building one, start building relationships with LPs, because you can't just show up at someone's door and say, hey, I am so and so and I'm building my first fund. Would you like to invest? That's not how capital moves in our sector, right? It's all about trust, because as emerging managers, they're very keen towards knowing you, your expertise, and they're always on the lookout on, can this person do it? Because they're
Mm.
trusting you with their hard-earned capital, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
lock in that capital for X amount of years, for 10 years, for 8 years. So you need to have a good relationship to a point where a person can just trust your thesis, trust your judgment, and say, hey, I would love to back you even at your second fund. So for us, our LPs have been tech executives, um, and they've seen the journey of SAG and his firm. They've seen
Mm.
my journey as a builder, and they've trusted our past. Sure, we don't come from a general banking experience. We've never worked in Goldman Sachs, but we've been builders, and they trust that. So building relationships is a must. And again, don't keep the relationship fully transactional,
Mm.
right? Try to add in value in their lives too. Call LPs, potential LPs, just, and you can have so many kinds of LPs, right? But within our tech executives who've been LPs to us, what we do is we call them and we tell them updates about our portfolios, and we tell them, hey, this so and so is has done so good. Do you have any feedback or advice on scaling the product, because you've been an expert on this domain? And they
Wow.
love.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have portfolio companies, and your LPs could lend some wisdom to that, and you leverage that. I
Absolutely.
that, that's like some multi-level kind of like knowledge transfer that I've sounds like it makes sense to me, but I like it's also new at the same time. I always thought of it as founder talks to the VC, but not necessarily gets connected to the LP. As a founder myself,
Mhm.
that's something you should like leverage and ask the VCs that you work with. That's huge.
Because I believe that founders have very little knowledge about what a venture capital is.
Mm,
So they think these are just rich people that can throw off money anywhere. And sometimes founders, they waste their time chasing the wrong investors. Like,
mm,
my advice to founders, when you're finding the best partner, your investor, as your best
mm.
partner, you need to do some homework on their thesis. Like, if you're a deep tech startup, reach out to deep tech investors. Don't chase an investor just because you see them on panels. They might
Yeah,
not. They might just invest in healthcare, right?
yeah.
So this is something that they should understand. And again, even as investors, we still have to make amends and return capital to our LPs. So don't feel bad when we say no, right?
Mm,
So it's always a not yet.
yeah. And that's huge. Knowing that, like sometimes you see Mark Cuban on TV or Kevin O'Leary, they seem
Mhm.
like really great investors, but they might not be the ones that you're looking for, but or will help you. So I want to dive into Roundtable Ventures, right? You gave us a two-sentence version of like what you guys are doing. Uh, now that we know your story, what's Roundtable Ventures really building, and why does it matter now?
I'd say every visionary deserves a seat at this table,
Hmm.
right? That's how we've built the firm. This fund is purely dedicated towards founders, and we aim to be the most operational investors because we've been through that journey, and this is the gap that we see in VC, and that's how we've helped our portfolios. And within Roundtable, we invest in three verticals, and we're very conservative within these. It's AI and agentic systems, deep tech, and healthcare. And we're massive on healthcare because that brings a diversification of impact, right? We're not just an investment firm, but we also care about these major sectors.
Hmm.
And our check sizes are 200K to 500K. If we come across exceptional companies, we're willing to do 1 million.
Hmm.
But that's our investment thesis. And we are backed by India's one of the largest venture capital firm in early stage sectors, and it's called Shastra. And they
Hmm.
were founders turned investors too. So we were so lucky to have their backing. They've advised us on building the firm, and they follow a similar thesis. Again, they're very conservative within their investments. They've made such great investments. I believe it's 70 plus. Not sure on the numbers, but they've made 70 plus investments.
That's
And
huge.
yeah, and we have a CVC partner. It's called Karma Free Capital, KFC
Hmm.
Ventures, but not Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Gotcha. All right, gotcha. Good to know that the distinction.
Yeah, so these are KFC. They look into IPOs. They're a very late stage
Hmm.
CVC, and they're always willing to help our portfolios once they get acquired or they have the chance of getting an IPO. So we're very structured as a fund. You know, when we look into companies, when we pick them at pre-seed, we take the absolute responsibility of like, hey, this is a kid going to middle school and we'll take care of them till college.
Hmm. Gotcha, gotcha. I wonder. I want to ask about that. You talked about the sector and the stage that you guys look at. Is there some? What about like founders? Right? Is there a type of founder that resonate to the VC firm that you also look for?
Absolutely. Founder market fit is such a big thing because when you invest in pre seed, it's all about the founder, right?
Mm,
Because ideas change and the market gets deviated sometimes. So they will build something that is according to the market or according to what's what the innovation needs. So when we look into pre-seed investments, it's all about founders and their expertise. We This is how we do it. Like when we have a founder in a certain building a certain startup, we see their domain expertise. Like have they worked in this certain domain before? Have they had education in this certain domain before? Do they have a team that has this domain expertise? Because that is so important. Sometimes the best founders are sitting at wrong ideas.
mm. That's
So
interesting.
that's pre-seed is all about that. Pre-seed is a very big gamble.
Could you tell me more? What does it mean? The best founders are sitting on the worst ideas or not the right ideas? That's very interesting.
I won't name the founder, but this is a founder that I met a couple years ago, and he was building in SaaS,
Mm,
and he had no idea of consumer technology, and he really didn't have an idea on how it worked. But he had an extensive background in healthcare. And I met him, good fellow, very hardworking. Met him again after like few years, and he's building in healthcare now, and they have users, and everything's working out well.
oh, okay. So that the founder just like needed to work in a domain that he was very that he could compound his knowledge on.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Because again, it's a lot about influencing, right? People
Mm,
influence people that you should go out there and chase your dreams. And sometimes you might not just be the right fit for your certain dream, but you will
mm,
have so many dreams in life. Just don't sit on one that doesn't work out for you because that will burn your precious time. If
yeah.
you have a domain expertise, go for that industry because you have so much leverage, right? You would know a lot more than your competitors, right? Or maybe you have an edge of absolutely changing the system.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's very true. So, you mentioned that you guys invest globally. Are there from you and the fund's perspective, are there any deals that other investors are sleeping on in like that you want to like share that you found?
Oh God, invest in startups from India.
Oh,
That's something that I'd tell you because maybe I give a little more preference because it's born and brought up in India, but I've
mm,
seen the quality of founders from India. These are hardworking people, and they've had a tremendous educational background, right? Like these are IIT graduates, and just to get into IIT, it's a tough battle. Only the best top 1% of population gets into IIT. So I would say I would want to bring more expertise and capital towards India because the space, the ecosystem deserves a lot more. Founders do deserve a lot more there. Um, and the market is really predictable because, sure, Silicon Valley is always moving fast and it's the hub for innovation. But when you look into countries like India, there's a predictable market, right?
mm,
We have Uber here, and the founders in India started Ola for cabs, and it worked.
mm.
Just giving a hint. And
Okay, all right.
on the other side, there's population is really good, so customer base is always good in India. We have different customers for different domains and different expertise. The other thing is, I would really look into defense technology. And I think we have to be serious on how the world is moving forward and how things are being shaped. So defense tech is something that we'll dedicate a sector towards our second fund. And even with AI, we are dedicating investments in physical AI and embedded AI now. So I would motivate other investors to look into defense tech, physical and embedded AI, and Indian startups.
Yeah, yeah. So that's really forward thinking of like what you guys are doing, right? Like thinking about these kind of fields, thinking about like finding them in nascent nations. Um, I'm looking at the time now, and we're almost close to time. So I want to like stop the train or slow down the train with one last question, and then we'll do an outro. In 3 years, what is the one thing about how value gets created and recognized in your field that looks completely different from today?
Wow. Ugh, that's a tough question. I believe value translates to building a legacy, right? And what comes in the make of building a legacy, I think it's all about having an impact. Us as investors, our investments should have an impact, a positive impact towards the society, and an impact towards the ecosystem of startups, right? So I would say venture capital, the landscape of venture capital is changing a lot more. I think we'll see more lean venture teams operating with an AI infrastructure rather than just having an arm of analysts, right? Now, that's a very huge debate. Some of my friends, they disagree with that. We've had pretty heated conversations on that because, again, their team has been so phenomenal, and it's hard to see something get replaced. But that applies to every other industry, especially at the dawn of AI. We will have different sectors made, old sectors removed. So even at VC, I would say try to follow a liquidity mindset, right? Try to follow a liquidity mindset. And I wish to elaborate further, but legally I shouldn't. That's something. And on the other side, robotics is going to be a very huge, a very big thing in the next couple of years. So look into robotics investment, but the ones that would absolutely make an impact, like let's say robotics that would help factory workers, right? Robotics in manufacturing, somewhere a way where we can replace the entire workflow of a business. So these are the impacts that I'm very motivated towards, and just have an ecosystem where founders can trust you more. Because if you act as a trusted partner, even if they're sitting on the wrong ideas, they will absolutely listen to your advice and build the right thing.
And then yeah, but it's in the age of AI, it's going to be very hard to find things to like trust easily. There'll be an abundance of content, abundance of products out there and services. So yeah, you really like hit the nail on the head there. So I want to close down the thing, but before we go, Yangchen, how can folks find you online and your firm so that they can continue the conversation that we started and dig deeper and get into longer discussions with you? This has really been fascinating. 30 minutes with you. So yeah, how can people find you?
Thank you. Well, I'm not on many social platforms because I live such a private life. But yes, you can find me on LinkedIn with my first name, Yangchen. Sharma. You can find me on Threads. I do post threads every now and then, just short advices for founders, and yeah, just two places, and roundtableventures.com if you'd like to know more about the firm, and just we have an email. Just contact us and be very transparent with what you're building, and if you need any guidance, would love to help you out.
Wonderful. At that, we'll end the stream. But Yangchen, please stay with me, because like I'd love to get some links from you so that I could add it to the post on X. So guys, thank you for listening and staying tuned. And yeah, until the next episode.
Thank you.
And